We have our first contributed talk for the day from Margot Hanley, who is joining us all the way from Cornell University. Her talk is titled Designing with Data, Human Algorithm Collaboration in the Ultra-Fast Fashion Industry.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm Margot Hanley. I'm a PhD student in the Information Science Department at Cornell Tech in New York City, and so grateful to be here today. Today I'm presenting research that I worked on with Nancy Baym at the Microsoft Social Media Collective this past summer, titled, as you just said, Designing with Data, Human Algorithm Collaboration in the Ultra-Fast Fashion Industry. Sorry, I think. Wow. Thanks. And I'm going to have to breeze through this because it's 7 minutes. So from a high level, this project aims to situate creative work within the broader discourse of AI and automation. We've all seen the sometimes dystopian and other times utopian headlines about AI replacing work tasks, jobs, whole professions. Much of this research has focused on characterizing human-in-the-loop decision-making in high-stakes domains, such as law, medicine, and criminal justice, and asks questions about how to balance human and machine judgment in various professional and institutional contexts. There has been less attention, however, dedicated to human-machine and human-algorithm collaboration in creative professions, with the exception being of journalists working with algorithms and musicians working with metrics. Our research attends to this gap by bringing creative work into this discourse with the case of fashion design, a field in which the use of algorithms is purportedly guiding and making design decisions at an accelerating pace. And we also respond to the call made by Angèle Christian, amongst others, for more ethnographic work exploring the actual rather than the aspirational practices connected to algorithms in professional contexts. As such, the research questions guiding our work are, to what extent is the practice of fashion design transforming with the integration of algorithms and big data in the design process? And more broadly, what are the arrangements of human and machine judgment in fashion designers' decisions? We explored these questions using two methods. First, we conducted a discursive analysis in order to understand the dominant and prevailing narrative within the popular and industry press and benefit from the extensive investigative reporting on the industry. And second, we conducted 10 semi-structured interviews with professional designers within ultra-fast fashion firms. So before I walk you through the research findings, I should answer what probably a lot of people in this room are thinking, which is, what is ultra-fast fashion? So first, I'll say that ultra-fast fashion is often synonymous with a handful of companies specifically. So the most well-known being Shein, Boohoo, Pretty Little Things, and Misguided, for those of you who might know those names, or even shop there. From a high level, the industry can be described as a section or subsection of the fashion industry, marked by its scale and speed of production, its extremely low price point, $4 a t-shirt, for example, its embeddedness within the social media ecosystem, and its sophisticated and extensive data collection and usage. Ultra-fast fashion companies have product lead times of days and list tens of millions, hundreds of millions of SKUs on their website each year. These companies take advantage of the fact that they're digitally native and are deeply embedded in the social media ecosystem. They draw inspiration not from the runway, like Zara, a fast fashion company we all know pretty well probably, but from celebrity culture, styles which turn viral on social media and change by the day, by the hour, by the minute. Ultra-fast fashion companies collect data from TikTok, Instagram, and other social media platforms and use it to identify and predict micro-trends and inform product selection and design. Critics of the industry point out how, given this enormous scale of production, even small decisions are poised to shape material output in an industry already under intense scrutiny for its egregious levels of carbon emissions and material waste. In 2020, United Nations reported that the fashion industry is responsible for 10% of annual global carbon emissions, and the fast fashion and ultra-fast fashion companies are playing an increasing part in that terrible statistic. So from our discursive analysis, we found that popular and industry press and industry experts characterize the ultra-fast fashion industry as extraordinarily data-rich, and design within the industry as data-driven and algorithmically determined. So, for example, this quote from an investigative report, a thorough investigative report by Rest of World says, "The secret is Shein's internal software, which connects its entire business from design to delivery. Everything is optimized with big data." Another source, there's no human interaction. It's all automated. When it is acknowledged that humans are involved in the design process, they're referred to as low-skilled web scrapers or data scientists, not professional fashion designers, indicating the degree to which machine learning and data science, as well as social media analytics, are driving the design and production within ultra-fast fashion. Some experts even claim that the era of the creative designer is gone. This Atlantic article says, for example, most of the 20th century designing clothes for mass consumption was still dependent in large part on the ideas and creative instincts of individuals. The process relied on human taste and judgment. Those days have gone. Strong claim. So fascinated and a bit skeptical about this authoritative role that that data and algorithms seem to be playing in the fashion design process, I went into the field and conducted interviews with 10 fashion designers. And through these interviews, a different kind of story emerged. So first of all, there were humans, big surprise, involved in design work, and professional designers at that, not just engineers number crunching. And while these designers at a time used data to inform decisions of what to design, from the collection mood to the sleeve length, a majority of the stories revolved around their use of subjective judgment, taste, lived experience, and creative instinct as inputs in their design process. I'll quickly take you through 5 different inputs which designers use to inform their design decisions through some juicy examples from the interviews. So the first input is designers' observations, often on social media or internet trends, often anecdotal observations. Here's an example of a designer observing on social media that whale tails from the 2000s era, where girls would have their thongs sticking out of low-rise pants, are starting to make a comeback on the internet. And on the right, you see how she integrated the inspiration into her design. The second type of input is when designers make decisions based on their lived experience. So this designer, Celeste, who had made a collection for Burning Man, for those of you who know it, had herself attended the event for many years, as she talks about in the interview. She expresses how certain fabrics flow better, in this quote, in the desert, something that she herself had experienced kind of out in the desert. I haven't been. So, but she talks about how it was a memory of hers even kind of to wear dresses like this and how much better it was. Her decision to choose this dress fabric then was inspired by her personal experience. The third input is designer intuition or gut. In this case, Amanda said she chose brass as a theme for a collection because she, quote, felt like it had some cultural relevance today with the whole baddie culture. In other words, she chose a theme based on some sense, intuitive sense, that it was salient today and in the context for this design. The fourth input is taste. In this case, something so simple as a designer recalling a dress she had loved 2 decades earlier, or just loving stars, directly informing the specific design decisions for this orange dress on the right. And lastly, personal identity. In this case, the designer had developed a print that had turned into a staple style of hers that she continued to evolve and apply in different projects. In conclusion, sorry. I think I'm almost over. In conclusion, just as there's always been creative human judgment in the profession of fashion design, so it has presented, even in an era of big data. Designers use anecdotal observations, personal taste, lived experience, and creative instinct almost as forms of data, salient and authoritative information that they draw from in order to make decisions in their design work. All of these inform design decisions in a way that is not algorithmically determined, not big data driven, certainly not automated. The findings from the interviews, though, do not disprove what we find in this discursive analysis, that there is some degree or increasing degree of algorithmic automation of design tasks within ultra-fast fashion industry, but rather complicate what the media and industry report as a simple, straightforward case of automation. Creative designers are gone. And of course, this prompts me to echo Christian's call for more empirical work and ethnographic work, engaging with the logics and practices of professions, adding rich accounts to the misleadingly simple stories about AI and automation. Thank you.
Thank you, Margot, for the great talk. I think we've got time for one question, either from here or online.
What does the future hold for you then? What next?
Sure, yeah. So I think I was a little bit surprised going into this research. I mean, it was only 10 interviews, but to find that there was so little kind of automation or data-driven work happening, and that kind of designers have maintained so much autonomy in their work, at least in this. So I think obviously the next, or what feels obvious now, is to just kind of do so many more interviews, also to get access to possibly designers that are either working with more data or situated kind of different parts of the pipeline of design. That might mean, for example, that automation is happening more at like a merchandising level or like a planning or production level, and kind of see how that flows into the design process. So I think what's in the future is just more research.
What's the interest of this fast fashion? I mean, do they make more profit? Do they make more money? How do they do that?
Yeah, they're very profitable. Shein, for example, is one of, I think, is a very high value, is a pretty high value company at this point. I forget how many. I think it was an IPO at some point or something. I mean, basically, they're just able to respond to increasing consumer demand, and also themselves kind of like increase consumer demand by getting people to buy more and more clothes, often clothes that you wear just once. So you buy a $4 t-shirt, you throw it away. You buy, like a $20 coat, you throw it away. So I think they're able to kind of like profit from people almost shopping like a game or like an addiction. So, I mean, I believe it is really profitable for them, and will continue to be in a terrifying way.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have, but thank you so much for the wonderful talk. Let's thank Margot. Thank you.